I hate Halloween, okay? I hate it. The art is good, but I cannot stand scary stuff. I've got an overactive imagination, and anything scary will haunt me for literal actual weeks. That being said, I am a content creator. So, a couple weeks ago, Twitch chat and I set out to determine what Smash characters would be like if they were in a horror movie. Instead of giving each character an individual role, we decided to sort the cast into 15 different categories, each corresponding to a certain horror movie archetype. These archetypes ranged from main characters to side characters to the villains, and the first and most boring of these is the protagonist. In most cases, the protagonist is nothing special. They've normally been ripped of all sense of agency or personality in order to allow audiences to project onto them. We've got Pokemon Trainer and Hero, whom I will literally pay you if you can tell me anything about them. Alf, who wishes he was half as cool as Olimar. Young Link, which I'll get to later. And Dark Pit, who I couldn't even think of a joke for. There are some interesting protagonists though, like Fox, who's a natural-born leader, standing at the front of the Goon Squad in that one trailer. Or Lucas, whose mother died. And that's a hell of a protagonist backstory if I've ever heard one. After the protagonists, we've got the virgins, which, for complicated misogynistic religious reasons, were the ones that survived at the end, normally because of their, quote, purity and innocence. We've got Daisy, who just seems the type to not really care all that much. Pyra, because we all need a little bit of hope in this day and age. Byleth, because romance is pretty hard for teachers. And Lucina, because she doesn't have time for you, and also no one would take her. And then opposite to the virgin, we've got the promiscuous person, who, again, for complicated misogynistic religious reasons, would often die very, very early. We've got the other two heroes, one with the fuckboy outfit and one with the fuckboy haircut. Mythra, because she created a fake personality to get people to like her, which is totally not what I'm doing here. Peach, because she canonically rewards Mario with cake. And K. Rool. He may not have the looks, but much more importantly, he has the confidence. And then we got the jocks, the muscle of the group. Normally not very smart, but very, very large and able to physically overcome most things in a horror movie. Charizard, who's kind of like a reverse jock where they skip arm day, but have massive fucking legs. Captain Falcon, who peaked in life on the high school football team. Min Min, who's very active and athletic, but also very distant from the rest of the group. Ganondorf, because the way he pounds his fist just screams bully. Ike, because you certainly don't get those muscles for free. Little Mac, who's pretty much the Rock Lee of Smash. Wii Fit Trainer, because fit trainer. I mean, it's Terry, who's got the body of a JoJo's character and the hair of a female Pokemon trainer. And Male Byleth, because only prep school athletes have that god-awful haircut. Next, we've got the nerds, which most of the time are the smart one in the group, but sometimes they're just the weird, quirky loner. We've got Alex, because I've never met a redhead that is not in one way or another nerdy. Bowser Jr., because he still keeps an action figure on him at all times. Ness, who still uses yo-yos in 2021. Rob, who was really into model rockets when he was younger. And Robin, because that's their only personality trait. And then the opposite of the nerd, the dumbass. They will underestimate the situation and they will die for doing so.
Plunging attack.
Sora, who's a child and doesn't understand the gravity of the situation. Corrin, because who else would go barefoot in a survival situation. Inkling, because they can only think of the drip. Sonic, who's fast, cocky, and way over his head. Incineroar, who will 100% taunt on the ghosts and die for doing so. And Mario, because have you seen him in Luigi's Mansion? He's entirely incompetent when it comes to horror. Then we got the stoners, who, like the dumbass, have no clue what's going on, but that's because they're blazed out of their minds. We've got Banjo, because I've never heard anyone go hook while sober. DDD, because he's the king, and he's got more important things to tend to, like piles and piles of drugs. Kirby, because when has he ever once been coherent? And Olimar, because he's canonically done weed, this is not a joke, look it up. And rounding off the main characters, we've got the funny guy, who, like the dumbass and the stoner, has no clue what's going on, but they're having a good time while doing so. We've got the rats, purely because of Ryan Reynolds. Pit, please play Kid Icarus Uprising, find out why he's in this category.
That move feels so familiar.
I think they used it in that one series, Super Bash Sisters.
You mean Super Smash Brothers?
I don't think it was that.
It's definitely that.
Sans, I shouldn't have to explain this one to most of you. Toon Link, because he goes... Ices, because before they climbed ice, they were a highly successful vaudeville act. And Diddy, who's not actually that funny, but he really wants to think that he is, and it's the effort that counts. The first of the side characters are the heralds, which are essentially the first contact with the supernatural in the movie. They can either be the ones who just first saw it, or they could be the ones who first died because of it, which in turn alerts the main characters. The first of these are fairly obvious. Palutena, Zelda/Sheik, and Shulk all have some sort of ability that lets them see into the future, which is shown in their roles in their respective games. Mega Man and Link are heralds because I find the idea of a herald that can't talk really funny. The reason that young Link is not here and is instead a main character is because he would not be responsible enough to tell people. He would just run and try and fix the problem himself. And lastly, Isabelle, who is definitely the type to stay behind late at work and die because of it. I'm sorry to everyone that loves Isabelle, Zingar, I'm looking at you, but she's dead. Then we've got the non-believers, who are generally the local authorities that hear about the supernatural but write it off immediately. We've got Donkey Kong, who has a suit, a job, and zero time for your bullshit. Chrom, who is also very busy with armies to lead and families to feed. Cloud, who for whatever reason gives me very Ben Shapiro-esque vibes. Marth, because he probably doesn't understand you since he only speaks Japanese. And Ryu, because talk is cheap. Editor's note, Wolf is also in this category. Not so much because he wouldn't believe you, but he probably just doesn't care. Okay, bye. And the last category of side characters are the Helsings, who know exactly what's going on, they're trained professionals, and they'll swoop in and save the day at the end. First, we've got the trained monster hunters like Bayonetta, the Belmonts, Samus, Luigi, Joker, and Pac-Man. Yes, I am counting the ghosts. Bowser, who may initially look like a monster, but he's a very protective father, and if Bowser Jr. is in danger, he will drop everything to make sure that he's safe. Dr. Mario, because not even monsters would be dumb enough to mess with someone with a PhD. And Roy, who has plenty of experience hunting ghosts from Bracket. And lastly, we got the villains, first of which are just the normal monsters, like Zombie, Ridley, Piranha Plant, and Dark Samus. Then we've got Sephiroth, who I can see acting as a sort of Mr. X type villain, what with his obsession with Cloud, following him everywhere. Then we've got Jigglypuff and Mr. Game & Watch, who don't pose any overt threat, but both fall into the category of, I don't trust them, get them away from me. Then we've got the Mii Fighters, who are this blank, soulless horde with nothing behind the eyes. And Ken, who is just always slightly in the background, just barely out of shot, doing the thumbs up. Then we've got the Scooby-Doo villains, who aren't a direct threat themselves, but rather set up like traps and schemes to hurt people. For a literal interpretation of this trope, we've got Mewtwo with its psychic abilities, Rosalina with Luma, Duck Hunt Duo with their gunmen and cans, Snake with his mines, Ivysaur with its plants, and Greninja with its substitute. For a more loose interpretation of this trope, there's Meta Knight, who wears the mask all the time, so they can do the whole "it was me all along" bit. Wario, because he'd probably just think it's funny. Yoshi, because I'm pretty sure tax evasion was a literal actual Scooby-Doo plotline. And Squirtle. I don't know why I put Squirtle here. And finally, we've got the insane people. They start the movie out pretty normal, but as things go on, they gradually break. We've got Enderman, because Kazuya, who has canonically murdered family in the past. Lucario, because of rage, they take damage the whole game and then at the end they snap and become super broken. And finally, Steve and Villager, who may look innocent but there's definitely murder in their soulless eyes. And that's it! Every single Smash Ultimate character sorted into 14 neat categories based on what they would be like in a horror movie. Wait, no, there were 15.